Hey, Econ students, this is Mr. Ling with the Unit 15 review. Here we go. Sorry about the glare, by the way. The sunshine is shining and my computer doesn't know what to do with it. It's not a normal thing. All right, let's get into it. Our first concept is monopsony. Monopsony is basically just monopoly of a labor market. So a couple of characteristics. There's only one employer in the area. Normally it is geographically isolated, right? Because there's always more than one place to work, but generally we're looking at a poor demographic, an unskilled demographic. They're unable to move around and relocate for the better job. So as a result, they have limited amount of power, which makes the monopsony, second characteristic, a wage maker, meaning that they have control over the wage. They don't have to pay a higher wage. They don't have to give great benefits, right? They're able to push that wage lower because of their power in the marketplace. Okay, so a couple of key elements here. First, remember MRP and MRC. MRP and MRC are reviewed from last unit, but I'll quickly go over it. You don't have to calculate them on this one, but you do have to know what they are. MRP is the marginal revenue product. It's the additional revenue brought in by hiring the next person, right? That's MRP. When I hire them, they give me a marginal product or additional product they produce. I can sell that product times a price. So it's just marginal product times a price. That gives me my MRP. Okay. MRC is a marginal resource cost. In other words, the additional cost of hiring that next worker. That's MRC. So in this case, MRC is actually greater than supply. Even though these monopsonies have an inordinate amount of power over the marketplace, they still are limited by supply. If they want to attract workers into the marketplace, they have to raise their wages. That's how it works, right? And so supply represents that. An increased wage results in an increased quantity of workers willing to supply their labor to that market. However, when I raise that wage to attract those workers, I can't just raise the wage for the next worker. For example, if I'm trying to hire the fifth worker, I can't just raise the wage and pay the fifth worker $15 an hour because that's all they would work for, and pay worker 4 and worker 3 $10 and $8 an hour because they would only work for that, right? I have to pay everybody that most recent or highest wage, which means that even though my supply curve shows that to attract that next person, I only have to pay them $15. In reality, my marginal resource cost is I now raise the cost or raise the wage I pay every single person. So it's going to be higher than the supply curve. Higher than the supply curve. And we see that right here where marginal resource cost is higher than the supply curve. Now we know that demand equals MRP. I did that in the last unit in our perfectly competitive resource market, and it does here as well. MRP, remember, is marginal revenue product. So the more people I hire, the less additional product I get from them. The law of diminishing returns, right? I could even put a little tail on this, be increasing returns and then decreasing returns. And if it went subterranean, it would be negative returns. And then our demand curve, of course, when wages are really high, employers demand very little. And when wages are really low, employers demand a whole lot of them. So that's an inverse relationship with wage as well. Okay, keep going. So how do we figure out how many people we will hire? Well, it's our profit maximizing or cost minimizing policy, which is where MRP equals MRC. And so that, let me get my handy dandy little marker here. Let's see, let's do purple. Right, that's going to be right here. MRP equals MRC right there. We dash that down, and that gives us our quantity, which is cut off in the picture. So I'll do my best to put a Q in there. There we go. Right? So we know that's going to be the quantity because at this point, the additional revenue I get from hiring the worker is equal to the additional cost. At every point before this, the additional revenue is greater than the additional cost. Any point after this, the additional cost is greater than the additional revenue. So I'm actually going to lose money or lose profitability if I hire a worker higher than Q. Okay? So what wage am I going to pay those workers then? Right? I have to pay them all the same wage. What wage will it be? Now you might say, hey, you should pay them this high wage right here, right? That is what they're worth based on the free marketplace. However, monopsonies don't have to pay that wage. Remember, they're not wage maker or takers, they're wage makers. So that is not the case. We're here and they're going to dash down until we hit the supply curve. And that's going to give us our wage that we're going to pay. We're going to pay a lower wage because according to the supply curve at this quantity, people are willing to work for a lower wage. And so I'm going to pay them that lower wage. Notice I currently am producing a very low quantity and paying a very low wage. This is bad, 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 bad for our workers. Okay, so can you identify deadweight loss? The answer should be yes. Here's deadweight loss. First, you have to find where I want to be. What is a socially optimal quantity? And we know that's wherever demand equals supply, right? And so that socially optimal quantity is going to be right here. That's where I want to be. Call this Q, S, O. But I'm not there, right? I'm here. And so we know our current, we can call this the free market. Our free market quantity is going to be the chopper. It chops off the market and makes it dead, right? So we're going to have it chopped right here, which means that the distance between where I'm at and where I want to be, this triangle here, used to be a part of consumer and producer surplus, isn't anymore. That is going to be deadweight loss. DW L. There we go. That's deadweight loss. That's basically what you need to know for the monopsony. You do not have to draw one on this assessment, but you do have to be able to analyze them. All right. Okay. Hopefully that made some sense.